Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the show. Just before we went off onto the break, Sayyid was talking about how hopelessness is actually haram. Sayyid, could you please elaborate on your point?
Yes. So we mentioned that regarding hopelessness, so that our madhab, our school of thought, Shia Ithna Ashari, is based on hope. We have the hope. Our hope is the Imam house, that he's coming. So we can't be hopeless. Why? Because we know that belief is there. That is a key belief of ours, that Imam is coming. He's alive, he is present, he is watching over us, and one day he's going to come. And inshallah, he's going to fill the world with justice and equity, just as it was filled with injustice and evil before it. So this is a key point and a key belief, and we have to keep on emphasizing this, right? It's very important for us to make sure that we discuss this point and we instill it into our young people as well, that this belief of Imam Mahdi Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajul Sharif is the belief that gives us all hope, right? Otherwise we will die. The way that people, followers of Ahlul Bayt are treated in many parts of the world, would lead people to hopelessness, right? And many sects and many groups have become extinct because of the level of oppression that's taken place on them. Why School of Ahlul Bayt, despite all of this oppression, continued oppression that's going on, is still existent, is still going strong? Because of this belief in Mahdi, in belief in Imam Zaman Farajul Sharif and his coming. So this is a very important belief, and it's very important that we emphasize this belief and we pass it on to our next generations.
Okay. I think we're quite lucky to have an Imam which is watching down on us.
Absolutely.
And someone we can pray to for guidance. Okay. The next question we'd like to go on to is the New Zealand attack which recently happened. As a result, was this a result actually, I should say, of Islamophobia? And for the viewers who may not know, could you just define Islamophobia
yes,
before talking about the New Zealand attack?
So briefly, obviously, I'm sure everyone's heard and read about the New Zealand attack, what happened in New Zealand last Friday on the 15th of March. 2 mosques in New Zealand, in Christchurch, New Zealand, were attacked by a gunman opening fire just after the Jum'ah prayers, and as a result 51 people died or killed and countless were injured. So no doubt that the environment of hostility towards Muslims, particularly from the media, particularly from certain groups of people in society, particularly from certain politicians, which would continuously villainize and ostracize the Muslim community, has led to a person reacting in this way. Okay, Islamophobia is the fear of Islam and Muslims. It is when a person attacks or discriminates or goes against a person or group of people due to the fact that they are Muslims. Okay, not for any other reason, but due to the fact that they are Muslims. Okay, and in this example, obviously it's very clear that this person attacked those people worshipping in those 2 mosques because they were Muslims, right? That was his intent of doing that, number one. Now, and in the UK, there's a number of people who are working on definitions of Islamophobia, because it is something that was not very well defined, and a few councils in London and various other places have accepted that definition that's been worked on. by a number of our Muslim brethren regarding Islamophobia and what does it mean for a person to be Islamophobic. And definitely we look at the media, the politicians, the way that people describe people who are Muslims. Okay, so if you look at, for example, the certain sections of the press, of the media, whether it's the newspapers, the TV channels, the talk shows, so on and so forth, how they like to blame Muslims for particular things that are happening in society. Okay, the way that they portray Muslims as the source or the reason for the problems that are happening in society. For example, if there's economic imbalance in society, so we say that it's because these Muslims have come over and they're taking or hogging the resources. That's
basically
why it's
the media's
other people.
Portrayal to Muslims is always in a negative light.
Absolutely. And if you know, and there's lots of work that's been done on it. We won't go into the details now.
That's one of the triggers which causes these far rights to come out.
Or for example, like there's a disproportionate emphasis when it's something to do with Muslims, right? So for example, if it's a person who's done something wrong, who isn't a Muslim, who's a Christian or from some other religion, then that person's religion or that person's background will not be mentioned. Okay, but in the case of it's a Muslim, even if that person, for example, is not practicing as a Muslim, that person is just from a Muslim family, the fact that that person comes from a Muslim background would be emphasized in the headline, in the news, within the story that's being discussed. So that's a very key difference.
You find the word terrorists is always used against Muslims when another opposition does an attack.
Then it is rare. However, we should give credit where credit is due in this specific attack of New Zealand. Straight away, they did say the Prime Minister of New Zealand said that this was a terrorist attack. The media then reported it not as a shooting but as a terrorist attack. So there was a noticeable change in this particular aspect. And of course, all of these things that we mentioned regarding the contributing factors towards the killing, definitely the way that people were demonized contributed towards that. Because it's ironic that the majority of those people who were killed, the 51 people who were killed, majority of them had emigrated from different countries to New Zealand with the hope for a better life. They had immigrated from their countries which are going through war, suffering, difficulty, so on and so forth, to go to New Zealand for the hope of a better life. But little did they know that they had actually gone to New Zealand to their fate was to die, right? So, and of course, we can discuss and talk about, for example, they'll say that those people who died, were they shaheed, so on and so forth, are they going to go to heaven, this and that. I think that's a secondary point. The primary point is all those people who left their houses that morning and to go to work and then to go to the mosque to pray, did not go there to die. They went there to pray and then come home and come back to their families.
Absolutely.
And therefore, our focus should not be on those people who, what's going to happen to them and so on and so forth. These are secondary issues. Our focus should be on why did something like this happen. Our focus should be on it could have been any one of us. It could have been any one of our family members. It could have been anybody we know. And therefore, we have to make sure that what are the things that we need to do in light of what has happened.
How do we improve our security within our centres?
Absolutely.
Because I'm pretty sure there's many youth out there who are thinking, why would we go to Husseiniya or, for example, mosque when these attacks can happen? We're not safe.
Absolutely.
So, even though this was just a one minority case which occurred, I think at the back of the mind you can still have that thought.
Absolutely. And this is very important. And as somebody in the aftermath of this attack mentioned was that we have to make it clear that mosques are not just places where we go to pray. Okay, mosque is where children are taught. Mosques are where people go to feel safe. Mosques are where lots of different activities of our lives take place in the mosque. Okay, weddings take place in the mosque, funerals take place in the mosque, madrasa, all of these things take place in the mosque. So in reality, the mosque is the center of our, we discussed this before, the mosque is an integral part of our life. An attack on a mosque is not just an attack on a place of worship. Community. An attack on the mosque is an attack on the very being of our society, of being a Muslim. Okay, and that is very intentional. That's very intentional. The mosque is a place where we go to feel safe, right? Away from everything else is a place where we go to feel safe. And if we don't feel safe in the mosque, then that is seriously a worrying thing of why that is the case. So we have to make sure that we are making sure that all of our places of worship are places which are safe, right? Because we want them to be places where people want to come and not places where people don't. Does
that mean we should start having security aware or the local police aware?
Absolutely, we should definitely be more vigilant. We should be, sensible. We shouldn't be alarmed. We should remain calm, but we should be vigilant. We should be aware of what's going on, and we should definitely have security. We should have CCTV. We should have the police involved if we feel that there's a direct imminent threat. So we can tell the police that this is what's happening. This is how we feel, and this is what we want to make sure to avoid any such thing to happen. Of course, we're very lucky in the UK that guns are only armed police officers can have guns and nobody else is allowed to have guns. So we don't have this chance of any mass shooting taking place in the UK. But of course, knife crime is a big problem within UK, particularly in Birmingham. People getting stabbed. A lot of people have been stabbed, in various different parts of the country and various different parts of Birmingham. So that is also a concern. Why is that happening? Why do people have access to knives? Why do people feel that it is acceptable to stab somebody? Why do people feel that, over an argument, a disagreement, so on and so forth, for a person to get stabbed, for a person to get killed, why is that becoming acceptable? That is all something that is a challenge that needs to be addressed. It needs to be talked about. It needs to be stopped. For example, one of the mosques here in Birmingham has made a knife bank, and they've said that please, anonymously come and drop off your weapons and your knives in this knife bank and stop. We want this to end. And I think that's a very good move from that mosque. But we also have to ask the motives of why people feel that is something that is acceptable. What is leading them to,
why is it happening?
Leading them to take such a drastic action, which is taking a knife and stabbing in someone's chest, for example, or someone's head, or to fatally kill somebody.
Okay. Now, we mentioned Muslims in general. However, we find that sometimes there is a disunity within Muslims themselves, and is this a factor that may cause the rise of Islamophobia? Or
I think it is unfortunate that it takes, for example, an attack or a tragedy of this kind of scale to bring Muslims together. It's very commendable that at times like this Muslim community comes together, but I think we have to be proactive when it comes to unity, and that is that we have to look at the areas where we have common goals. Okay, that this particular issue is something that affects all Muslims, and we need to make sure that it is something that we address together. Right? So for example, this issue about knife crime, it affects everybody. It doesn't just Muslims, it affects everyone. Okay, so we need to make sure that we come together, pool our resources to make sure that we can effectively combat this particular issue. Or there's other issues regarding halal meat, regarding we mentioned previously regarding relationship and sex education, this being taught in schools, so on and so forth. All of these issues are things that affect all of us equally. Okay, and so we have to come together and put our theology one side. Okay, this is my belief, this is my school of thought, that is your school of thought, that's your belief, no problems. But this particular issue affects all of us. And so we have to come together, work together to create the solution rather than wait for something to happen and then for us to react.
Reactive being... Yeah.
To react to a particular situation. No, rather than waiting for us to react, we have to be proactive. And when we're proactive, then we'll see that we're more effective, and our community and our people and the society around us will see that people are more proactive regarding dealing with a particular issue.
I think the Jewish faith does this very well. Maybe there's 350,000 Jews in the UK, and there's how many? 7 million of us? Or,
at least 2 or 3 million Muslims.
And the way they are amongst themselves as a community.
Absolutely, and their system is based on a very key point, which is regarding education and regarding financial independence. Okay, and there's many things that we can learn from them regarding this particular point, that we have to make sure that people are educated, highly educated, and people have their own financial independence, they're not dependent on anybody else. These two particular points would make a community very strong, very be able to lobby on particular issues of importance to that community. So we have to make sure also that our Muslim community also is able to at least benefit from the education system in this country and become at least educated and aware on our own issues, so that we can proactively work on those issues and get solutions.
Okay. Now there's two types of evil, one being natural evil and one being human evil. What is the difference between these two, and if you can distinguish them?
Traditionally, in the theological definition, natural evil refers to things like earthquakes and tsunamis and volcanoes erupting and so on and so forth. And human evil refers to evil obviously carried out by human beings. But if we observe the natural evils as well, so earthquakes, tsunamis, natural disasters, all these kind of things that happen, we notice that recently, so over the last 100 years, there's been a massive increase of them compared to the past. Okay, so like earthquakes become more common, tsunamis become more common, volcanoes erupting have become more common, environment getting ruined, all of these things have become more common. Why? Why has it become more common compared to before? That is also due to human beings, right? Due to the actions of human beings. Why? If we're going to pollute the earth the way that we're polluting it at the moment,
so we're worse human beings now than we were back then.
Right, so if we're going to pollute the earth the way that we are with, for example, fossil fuels, with, for example, all the contributing factors that are leading to global warming, okay, all the contributing factors which are leading to this change in the weather in all over the world, all the contributing factors which are leading to because of the change of weather leading to earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes erupting, all of these things, ice caps melting, all of these things are all part of this change. So even though what appears to be natural evil is still in reality the responsibility of human behavior, the way that we are irresponsibly polluting the earth, the way that we are wasting the natural resources, the way that we are acting in this way, all of these are leading to more disasters taking place, which are directly due to the responsibility of how we are treating the earth.
So is this the reason why God is testing us?
So now, so for example, if you see, like, if polar ice caps are going to melt, okay, so polar ice caps are supposed to be ice, they're supposed to be snow. If they're going to melt, then you're going to have floods, right? But those floods were never supposed to happen if we collectively as human beings are not polluting the earth with fossil fuels, which are leading them to melt, right? Global warming is not supposed to happen because all these ice caps, for example, all these other things, all the things that are naturally, the order has been created in a particular way. But if we're going to disrupt the order, damage the ozone layer, okay, we're going to pollute the earth, all of these things are contributing to damaging the environment, which is leading to these.
So natural evil is essentially something which we ourselves
have contributed exactly
to.
We are contributing to making that.
Even earthquakes, yeah?
Even earthquakes, right? Earthquakes are also taking place due to the the way that we are treating the earth, right? Okay. Now, yes, there are some benefits as well. Like, for example, where volcanoes erupt or earthquakes happen, that particular part of the land, or floods take place, that particular part of the land becomes more fertile, it grows, the crops grow better, so on and so forth. So there is a wisdom behind it. But the fact that it's becoming worse and it's leading to more people dying, it's leading to people being displaced.
But what a just God, and to do this.
Right. So now, this is the same thing, that human beings have been created free will. Okay. The earth has also been created on the basis of certain systems. Certain laws of physics are in place. Certain laws are in place which are being followed. If you're going to disrupt those laws, then it's going to mess up the system. Right? If you damage the ozone layer, then as a result of that, it's going to lead to global warming. Okay. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the world through a particular system. If you damage the system, then it's going to give negative effects. Right?
Absolutely.
So this is the key point. That even this natural evil that we think is natural, in reality is not so natural. In reality is something that we are contributing to by our own actions and our responsible actions, that is led by our consumerism.
Okay. I think we would like to conclude the show. We'd like to thank everyone for viewing our program today. Evil and suffering is a mercy from Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and the trials and tribulations that we get only make us get closer to Him. I think it's only right that we close this show by reciting Dua Faraj, if you can say it, to pray, inshallah, that we keep away from evil and suffering.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma kulli waliyaka al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan salawatuka alayhi wa ala abai. في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. Yes, with that we will conclude with the prayer that inshallah ta'ala Allah keeps us safe and maintains that hope that we have with the Imam Ajjallahu ta'ala Farajah Sharif, inshallah.
Please tune in next week for another show, another topic on contemporary issues, best of both worlds. Khudafis.